Hello there, I'm Leo Walder for Kit Guru, and this large, thin laptop is the Aorus X7 Pro Sync. You may recall that Aorus is like a sort of a high-end brand from Gigabyte. So if you haven't heard of Aorus before, think Gigabyte. If you've heard of Aorus, good. It's a 17.3-inch laptop powered by Intel Core i7. It's got dual NVIDIA GTX 970M graphics in the thing. We've got SSD in RAID, a whole bunch of DDR3. There's a lot of good hardware in this laptop, but Aorus is putting the emphasis on the thinness of it, which they're saying 22.9mm. If you actually measure it sort of behind the lid, that's the overall thickness, you get sort of measurements in the territory of 14.5mm. It is very slender. They do fudge certain figures because they talk about it weighing just under 3 kilos, 2.99. I can only think that's minus the battery, because my personal weight for this, when I put it on my own scales, 3.3 kilos. Power brick is a reasonably hefty, just over 200 watt unit. That's another 1.1 kilos. So they're claiming under 3 kilos. I'm saying essentially, effectively over 4 kilos. But let's not argue about the details. Let's instead show you what this thing can do in the Metro 2033 benchmark. Let's just kick it off. And there we go. And we'll see what does Core i7 with dual GTX 970s and SLI do for you. I think we can be confident the answer is it's going to break bottom and haul behind, and indeed it does. I'm also going to bring in the Kit Guru microphone and stick it, and you can hear the noise. Now the thing is, we all know if you pack a load of hardware into a slender chassis, you either have to avoid heat in the first place, where you have to get rid of that heat. Gigabyte has not avoided heat. Core i7 is never going to be especially low power. This is in a 40-something watt TDP processor rather than one of the ultra low power jobs. And dual GTX 970Ms, well, how can that be low power? They are conventional GTX 970Ms, each with 3 gigabytes of memory, so there's nothing fancy going on there to save power and heat. And then you pack in the other bits and pieces, as I say, SSDs and RAID and such like. But you've got heat to shift once you start flogging the thing, and the result is that you get lovely frame rates on the very pleasant monitor panel, but you get heat. And in such a slender chassis, all you can do is eject it as rapidly as possible. You get fan noise. It's a rorty laptop. And I'll move the microphone away just to cease annoying you any further. To my ears, the fans work in sort of 5 stages. The first stage kicks in and out, even when you're kind of on Windows desktop and such like. It's rarely almost silent. It does happen on occasion, and then bap, 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 bap. And up it goes from you can hear it to actually that's pretty damn rackety. Now clearly, if you're gaming with headphones, that's not necessarily the end of the world. The problem is there might be other people around you, and if they can hear it, they'll be vexed. You can hear this laptop literally when you're running benchmarks and such like from a room or two away. This is the noise is significant. The question is whether or not it actually whether the cooling keeps the hardware under control or not, and I'll show you that in a few moments when the benchmark finishes and we get some frame rates. The panel, it's a good panel. It's 70.3 inch on the diagonal, it has G-Sync, and it's Full HD 1920 by 1080, which strikes me as a wise move, although they could have clearly crammed a 4K panel into a laptop of this size. Dual GTX 970M would probably drive 4K, but it would be marginal. I mean, 980 is generally your starting point for 4K, and ideally you want a couple of 980s. If you have that, then you can just do anything you want. When you have a 980, you basically end up sort of moving quality settings around a tad. Dual GTX 970Ms at Full HD, you can expect to just crank the settings up to the max. And indeed I have with Metro 233 Redux here, and it looks absolutely lovely. So the processor, it's Core i7, but it's a 5850HQ, which means that it's Broadwell rather than Skylake. Now it's a perfectly decent processor, but it is already last generation. Skylake is obviously the new shiny thing. Now the actual fact it's Broadwell in and of itself doesn't matter. When I've compared it to various Skylake laptops I've seen recently, the performance is absolutely acceptable. Good, that's finished. As you can see from the graph, performance is good. Let me just unplug the power brick. And the thing is, if I just minimize that and go back, is that if you look there at what Ada is reporting, you can see that there is a bit of a red line, which is that the CPU is partially throttling. And the reason is because the temperatures go high. Now, my figures when I was running benchmarks on this laptop were that the CPU at times sort of hits 92. Now, when the CPU goes into the 90s, it starts to throttle. So you wouldn't expect, unless there's some sort of catastrophe of fan failure, you wouldn't expect it to go to 100. Once you get past 90, you're in problem territory. That's when it throttles. And that is running, albeit a benchmark, but it is running a game. I can get similar results if I want by simply stressing the thing in Ada, which is entirely synthetic. But clearly Metro is a proper test. It is a proper game. And I wasn't doing anything particularly bonkers. So the fact it is throttling partially, not good. Performance doesn't appear to be particularly hindered by that, but nonetheless not good to see. Anyway, getting back to the hardware, so it's Core i7 Broadwell rather than Skylake, and that's all well and good. As I said, when I compared it to Skylake performance, the processor isn't holding it back. You have to wonder slightly about the efficiency of Broadwell versus Skylake, as Intel only ever makes improvements in these things. The other side of it is that the hardware is kind of last generation. So the chipset is HM97 rather than the Skylake generation. And one notable absence from the specification is there's no USB 3.1 Type-C connector. We have plenty of ports and connectors. We've got headset jacks, one USB 3, a VGA, which I'm assuming is going to be for connecting to a projector or some such. It has no place in world of PC monitors. We have Ethernet, which is a killer NIC. We have ventilation various. On the back, we have two more USB. They're USB 2. We have the power jack. We have loads more ventilation. Photos obviously on KitGuru. On the side, we have mini DisplayPort. We have HDMI. We have two USB 3. We have a card reader. Plenty of ports and connectors, considering what a slender laptop. No optical drive, but you wouldn't expect that. The styling is a little curious. This sort of, I'm never quite clear what the Aorus logo is about. And again, photos on KitGuru. It looks like kind of like an eagle doing this with its fist, which is a bit peculiar. Do eagles have fists? You've also got this sort of creasy sort of peaky thing going on the lid, which I don't quite understand. If we flip it over, on the underside we have a regular vented plastic panel, and we have a whole series of Torx screws around the side. So you can get inside it provided you have a Torx key, a very small Torx key, but it is doable. I've already removed all the screws, and if I now lever on this brutally, the panel should pop off. There we go. And humorously, although I shut the thing down, you can see the fans are still spinning. So I'll try and keep my fingers out of it. Now, it's a very thin chassis. The battery is here. Photos on KitGuru once again. It's sort of essentially two batteries in a plastic bag. There's a sort of you can actually, when you take the battery out, you can sort of fold it. Here we have the 1 terabyte hard drive to back up the SSDs. There we have the two M.2 SSDs. They've done a kind of reviewer special with this particular model because those are both 512 gigabyte and they're meant to be 256 gigabyte, yes, 256 gigabyte rated together to give you about 500 odd gig of total storage, which would be plenty. Instead, with those two together, I've got a terabyte. Also, the memory, it's got 4 memory slots, as you can see, 4 DDR3 because we're Broadwell rather than Skylake, but they, for some reason, have installed 2 different brands of memory. You've got 2 G-Skill Ripjaws and 2 Crucial Ballistics, Crucial Ballistics Sport. You would expect to have 2 slots populated. I expected there to be 2 slots populated, with a total of 16 gig. I've actually got double that. Not quite sure why. I don't think it affected the benchmarks in the slightest, but I left well alone. We then got speakers, as you can see, and then the cooling solution. And that's your standard CPU, GPU, heat pipe flat, cooler, heat go out corner. In that sense, nothing unexceptional. There's also a spare expansion slot here, I see. And the thing being is, they've basically hamstrung themselves, have Aorus, to my mind. The fact that they decided to pack in dual GTX 970Ms, good. Laptops using that sort of hardware, or indeed 980, is not particularly uncommon. A Core i7 is obviously incredibly mainstream. The fact they haven't gone for Skylake, that's fine. That's because it's a laptop that dates from a few months ago, and so be it. But the fact they've gone for a very slender chassis was entirely their choice, and in a sense they've managed to just get that wrong. Slender chassis, you've got heat. How do you get rid of heat? You whack up the fan speed. The fact it's throttling the CPU. We've seen much chunkier laptops from the likes of PC Specialists recently using a Clevo chassis, which was yay thick, and the thing was as cool can be. So this was a pure choice by Aorus to make the thing as thin as possible. They've done that, but there are consequences. You want performance hardware in a slender chassis, unless you can reinvent the laws of thermodynamics, the consequence is trouble. Having said that, the thing does work properly, but it is winter here in the UK. The temperatures are not warm. What it would operate like in some toasty, hot, humid environment such as Singapore, if you're outside and you're sitting there playing a game on your lap, I don't like to think. This laptop was tested under what I regard as ideal circumstances for the Aorus, and it didn't fail, but the cooling was a problem and the noise is a problem. So in that sense, disappointing. Also, just to say, when this laptop arrived, it actually had Windows 8.1 on it. Aorus offers Windows 10 as an upgrade. Quite clearly, you can click on the button and Microsoft will give you a Windows 10 upgrade. When I received it, I wasn't at all happy with the cooling and noise levels. I thought, I'm going to show this in the best possible light. So I first updated the BIOS. Then I realized I'd broken SLI, so redid SLI. Went up to Windows 10. Reinstall Windows 10 drivers, which are all available on the Aorus website. The process was dead straightforward. The consequence is that this laptop is bang up to date, and yet the noise levels are what they are. So if you buy this laptop, do not expect to get a better result than I have with the noise, because I can't say exactly that it's a problem, but you must really want a laptop this thin and lightish with decent performance to go down this route, because jamming that much cooling on that much hardware in this chassis, you could predict what was going to happen. For some reason, Aorus doesn't appear to have done so. Curious thing. Anywho, this is Leo Woodard for Kit Guru, and this thin laptop is the Aorus X7 ProSync.